Hey, what's up YouTube? I am Lauger, back again today talking to you about the Pathfinder role-playing game. Not today I'm talking to you about character creation. This is the first video of a 3-video series where I discuss character creation. Specifically today I want to talk about what is a character and how do you create one. Well, what is a character? There are two types of characters. There are player characters and non-player characters. Non-player characters are any person you interact with throughout the course of the game that is told from the perspective of the GM, the DM, the Dungeon Master, Game Master. Now, they control all non-player characters. They know everything about them, and they will tell you what's going on with them, what they do, what they say, all of that. Now, the player characters, every player that's not the GM or the DM at the table will have their own character. Typically, they only control one per person. Now, you decide what this person does. You decide who they are and what they do. You decide everything down to what gender they are, what height they are, what their weight is, what their age, what race they are, what classes they are, what they own. Literally, you decide everything for them. And then you decide what actions they take and how, and the GM or the DM will tell you how those actions play out, whether they are good, bad, whether they work the way you want them to or not, and what the result of those are. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that your character is a part of the world. This isn't a typical console RPG like Skyrim, like Final Fantasy, games like that, where you're kind of railroaded along from beginning to end along a path and you need to get to a conclusion. Okay, you do have a story you need to follow, but things you do throughout the game can affect how your character, interacts with other people in the game. I've read some different adventures where if you do a certain thing for the shopkeeper, after you complete that particular task, you get 10% off at the shop. From there to the end of the adventure. I've also heard if you do, I've read different things where if you don't complete a task for a shopkeeper, or if you try to steal from the shopkeeper or something like that, where they refuse to sell to you ever, there's nothing you can do to get them back on your side. Things like that. So your person is a part of the world. Now, I'm not saying you have to be goody two-shoes all the time, but you need to keep in mind that what you do affects gameplay, not just for you, potentially for the other party members. Okay, but now how do you create a character? Well, there's many different ways to come up with your character concept, and that's all this is going to cover, is just your concept of a character. Now, how do you come up with this concept and what it is? Well, first thing, if you're having trouble coming up with something on your own, borrow. And what do I mean by borrow? Literally borrow from another source. If you want to make a halfling who was adopted by his eccentric uncle who wants to set out who decides to set out on an epic quest to see the elves. Yes, I just took from Lord of the Rings. But there you go. It's something. If you want to play, because in one of the new books I have a vigilante class, if you want to play a rich socialite who goes out at night and takes on bad guys, basically Batman, there you go. You can do that. If you want to take and play the champion of everything right and work your way toward being a noble king and be King Arthur, go for it. Borrow. If you see something from another source, if you cannot come up with something on your own, you can start with something that is already out there. And I say that because no matter how unique you try to be, odds are whatever you're trying to do has been done by somebody somewhere before, whether it be in a book, a movie, somebody else's game table, maybe in a pre-written adventure by the game company. They've put out, a half-elf cleric with the 2 domains you picked and around the same age and the same gender. It might be in a book that Paizo has written. So you're not going to be unique. But if you see something you like to use, borrow from it, build on it. It's a starting point. Okay. Now, that's one method. Now, there's another method. A few people on YouTube I've watched have talked about not sticking with the familiar tropes and trying to be unique. Now, what do they mean, the familiar tropes? Well, you know, the homeless kid who grew up to be a thief or a rogue. The acolyte at the local church who sets off to be an adventurer and who's now a cleric. You know, the king's trusty knight who swore an oath to the gods to protect his king, who's now a paladin. The old studied mage who's a wizard. Things like that. That, you know, some people would say, build something that's more unique. Maybe you have the homeless kid who grew up, instead of growing up to be a thief, maybe he found out he was really good at magic and now he's a wizard. Maybe that cleric acolyte scenario, maybe one day he got fed up and just started robbing from people. You know, you can go many different ways. And that's one. Now, a few of my friends prefer to go through and they will basically write a book about their character. They will know most of the major events in their life that have led them up to this point, and then figure out, okay, well, they've had all these events and experiences, now what class would they be, you know, when they start adventuring? And they kind of build their character that way. There's also nothing wrong with that. If you can figure out what events would have led your character up to a specific point in time, okay, well, all these things have happened to them now, and now they're going to take a level in Rogue as their first level, and, you know, what led them there? That's great if you can do that. Now, how I do it is usually I look at the group, and I'm not saying there has to be a balance in the group that you have to have certain things, but I look at the group and go, okay, well, we have, you know, a main tank, a heavy hitting, high hit points person. We have somebody that has damage out of the way. Maybe we have a rogue. We have, you know, this position's filled in, but we don't really have a healer. Okay, I start looking at the classes that have divine magic and that can heal, and I pick one from there. Maybe the healing roll is full, but we don't have a rogue. Maybe I start looking at the rogue classes, and I pick my class first. And then I look for a race that sometimes would be interesting, and sometimes I look for a race that might, you know, complement what I'm trying to do. And once I have my race and my class, and I kind of figure out from there, okay, what age would this person be? And I start building my backstory after I have those things in place. Take anything I've given you in this video, put it to good use, come up with your backstory, create a character, create a personality to play in a game world. Hopefully this all helps. Keep an eye out for the other 2 videos in this series. The second one is going to cover how to fill out a character sheet. The third one's going to cover the most argued thing in all of tabletop role-playing, that is alignment. So keep an eye out for those. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have a better way that I haven't discussed to make a character, drop me a line in the comments. I'm always willing to listen to other ideas and other ways of doing things, and maybe I'll find something that works better for me. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share my video if you found it helpful. I appreciate all of that, and yeah, that's it. That's all I've got. Until next time.